With us for this entire hour, Fox Business contributor Lou Basenese. Hey, Lou.
Good to be here.
And he talked about Kevin Warsh taking over the Federal Reserve.
Yeah.
I'm just going to...
15%, Lou, come on.
That's a whopper of a number is what I'll say.
We did it post-COVID, right?
We did post-COVID, but you have to...
That's why the balance sheet blew out to $9 trillion.
Don't wish the precursor of that 15% growth on us again. I think that's what's required.
Right.
Here's how I look at this. I look at it as maybe President Trump spent a lot of time with Elon Musk. Because if I look at Elon, right, he is the great vision caster. And, you know, we have two lawyers here. I would say that President Trump is leaning into the spirit of the law, not the letter of the law. So what do I mean by that? 15% growth of GDP, not happening, not in anyone's lifetime unless outside another COVID. But shoot for Mars and land on the moon instead, right?
Elon Musk did that this week.
It's exactly what he's doing. So the president's saying, hey, the conditions are there where we can have potentially double-digit growth, right? I've deregulated. I'm putting a lot of money into the system. I'm picking someone for Fed chair that's going to be accommodative. I think 5 to 6% is probably the top of where we can get. But look, if the president says 15 and we end up at 5 and 6, everyone's going to be super happy.
Did he say 15 in 1 year?
Well, that's
because, like, you could do 15 in 3 years.
Yeah, don't nitpick.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying, like, I like that number. Over 3 years, that's still aggressive, by the way. That's still aggressive,
right? You're not going to get him pinned down on that, but I think that's it. You want in a leader, which he has been a remarkable leader for this country, set the vision and then execute against it, right? So he's casting out there, he's putting the policies behind it to enable this boom in economic growth. We're seeing it come to fruition. I would say the only caveat is in small businesses, right? That's where the unemployment and the employment situation looks the most murky right now. But I think the conditions are in place where that's going to change as we get through the back half of this year.
Let's talk about the economic conditions. You talked a little bit about it this morning, Dagan, when it came to retail sales. Atlanta Fed GDP, unfortunately, that retail sales data goes down to just 3.7%. Remember, this was like a 5.4, then it was a 4.2. Now we're at a 3.7, a very volatile number. And I would say 3.7 actually isn't bad for a U.S. $30 trillion economy, but it's not a 4 or 5%. The retail sales numbers, I don't know, maybe we're mincing words or picking straws or whatever that analogy is. But if the consumer is shopping in the December month or the December quarter for the holiday, maybe in September and October, then maybe the December retail sales aren't so bad if you had a consumer pull back, knowing that they had shopped a lot earlier. I don't know. I'm just going to...
Wasn't November a big number? Wasn't the November retail sales a pretty dang good number?
Yeah.
So maybe you're buying a lot in November, not so much.
We could parse through that. You know, Dagan, I don't know. My only other sort of big concern here is we did get import prices this morning. And on the tariff front, it doesn't look like exporters are massively cutting prices in order to get into this market. So there are still holding prices steady in the face of tariffs, getting into the U.S. market. But so far, we haven't seen then, is it the U.S. retailer that absorbs that margin hit, starts to pass things on to the consumer? Again, I'm just picking up 2 data points that we got from this morning, and the data previously has been very strong, but just throwing that out there for food for thought.
Yeah, I guess the questions are, where are the weak economic data points? I mean, outside labor and maybe real estate, but the president's addressing that.
Well,
so I guess
that retail number, it's not adjusted for inflation, but year over year, retail sales were down. Yeah. When you factor in inflation,
But I think this is a bet on AI. And the truth is, nobody here, nobody at this panel, and nobody in America really knows what the productivity potential is here.
I know it's greater than...
It could be
greater than zero.
We've seen.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot bigger than we think. But I think, to your point, Dagan, and I'm with you, I'm concerned about deficits, runaway spending. They can never get out of those habits. But the president has adopted a different stance entirely. We're going to grow out of it. Forget that side of the equation. We're going to outgrow that. If we energize the economy, we can keep going relative and keep spending, deficit spending, which I don't think is a long-term solution. But I think through the midterms and, you know, through his presidency, that's the pursuit that he's going to go after.
Changes that cost equation for health care. Nothing changes in terms of the trajectory.
Yeah, I think it's spot on. If you look at what's keeping inflation higher, it's health care, it's real estate, and it was energy for a while. Those are all structural things that you can't just bring down by market forces. You've got to change the structure.
Right.
So is AI deflationary in all those areas? If the answer is yes, then the productivity gains are going to be massive. If it's in 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3, I think to Jackie's point, it'll be high single digits growth. Look, I think this is a really difficult position for a new CEO because you're basically taking over a company whose main products are headed towards obsolescence or near obsolescence. Right? You don't hear anyone. How many people here have a Coke a day? No, right?
Only the president, right?
No, diet. He drinks diet.
So I think the reality is we have GLP-1s are going to be the biggest, if they aren't already. They're about to be the biggest selling drugs in the world.
Is that an excuse for these companies?
I think accountability always flows to the top. So, yeah, I would say so. Because if GLP-1s, you see that market dynamic changing, you have to adjust your business, pivot to thrive, or you go obsolete.
I don't believe that that Coke will be obsolescent.
I don't think they will, but I think it's not a growth stock anymore.
I think that comment, though, from leadership that we're not close enough to our customer is an admission that we're running the business like crap. That it's like, oh, we don't know our customers.
I'm surprised the stock's only off about 1.5% on that type of comment.
My dad, as my father would say, I don't believe I would have said that.
This could sort of be our version of that. We were just sort of wondering, who are we teaching and where are they going to go? What do you think, Lou?
I love this because I think to be a leader in AI, you need partnerships, not more paperwork. I think the normal government response is to regulate, over-regulate, make it bureaucratic. The ironic thing here, and why I love this so much, is that the U.S. government, people forget, is the largest IT customer in the world, most likely. So it's not about just productivity. The companies that are assembled here are data infrastructure, cloud players, not AI tools used by consumers. So I think it's a great training ground on twofold. It's going to train younger generations in tools and systems and just technologies that they're going to use in the workforce, but it's also going to bring them back to those companies and say, hey, here are the problems that you have no clue about that's happening in the government use cases because you're not embedded there. So I think it's paying double dividends. It's a very synergistic relationship between government and industry. I think it's a great idea.
And is there
problems with that program, frankly, but I hear you. It's factually true. I don't know that I love that, but
I think the devil's in the details here. We're all pointing that out. I think you're right to be skeptical, but think about the trajectory of what the policy that they're trying to put in place, right? They're moving in the right direction as opposed to the complete opposite direction of Bernie Sanders, let's put a moratorium on all AI development. Like, that's absolutely the wrong move. I think this is a step in a direction to bridge private sector, public sector. Right. Will it work out? Based on history, Brian's right. See, not many examples of it working
like
out.
The whole bridging public and private sector, it just gets me nervous because public sector always wins in that bridge. Historically, it's always been that side of it, and you just end up with bigger government.
Why don't they stop?
Because it's money. I mean, Meta's in the same boat. There's been more evidence
money.
With Meta's. Exactly.
Right. They don't give a flying damn that elderly people and the unwitting consumer is being robbed blind. So let's talk about that fraud too while we're at it.
Look, I think you're absolutely right. I think corporate America gets corrupted by greed, and they make decisions based upon the bottom line saying, how much trouble are we going to get into if we do these things, right? By selling advertisements of known fraudsters. Meta is in the same boat. There was more recent press about them as well. They knew it, and they could have shut them down, and they didn't. And there was money that was lost by users. But that's it. The business is set up to make profits, not to be principled. This is why I've never invested in Meta, because I put principles over profits, and they've
the government doesn't, though. And to Josh Hawley's point, Brian, I think the frustration is if you're just a normal average citizen paying taxes, you feel screwed because you are getting screwed. Because to Dagan's point, you want to stop the fraud, you got to stop the spending. The federal government is never going to stop the spending.
So then what's the solution if you can't stop the spending?
So stopping the spending might be the root cause, but it's going to be harder to get there because of the fights that we have in Congress all the time. So what I want to see is more criminal prosecutions. I want to see more exposing and uncovering this. Put people in jail. Some of these people pleaded guilty. Don't let them plead down. If they're guilty, put them in jail. Make sure you recover the funds and set a precedent. There was a time even on Wall Street where schemes and things were prevalent, but when they start going after people would see the example and they would stop doing it. So I'm not saying that just going after them criminally will fix the issue, but in the meantime, it gives that taxpayer a little feeling like there is some justice out there and that, he's not a sucker for going to work every day, paying his taxes and then letting people steal it.
Yeah, look, fraud follows incentives just like capital does. And to Jackie's point, if it also avoids repercussions. And, you know, Wall Street, there's plenty of schemes that still go on, and the SEC struggles with fighting that and regulation, but government's too big. My thing is, and the question back to you, Dave, because you said just cut the spending, there's got to be at all points in time, there's going to be something that we're spending on to help those in need in some way or shape or another. So how do we set up systems where we watch every penny as it goes out the door to make sure it's being appropriately spent as opposed to fraudulently, stolen?
But oh my goodness, my euro goes so far.
Yeah.
My euro goes so far.
People used to think that Marriott was sort of on the middle to low end, that it wasn't like high end like the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons. But if you go to a Marriott now, they're buying up, number one, really nice properties and charging a lot for them too. So this isn't like a low end consumer situation. This is high end.
No, to that point, I got to eat my own words from before saying I didn't see any negative economic data points. If you look at the luxury retail spending on hotel rooms and then budget, luxury average revenue per room is up 5.2% in the last year, and budget is down 3.7%, I believe. So this is that K-shaped economy where you're seeing the haves have more and keep spending more, and the have-nots are really being budget conscious.
Are people trading up, though? Because people always look at the seats on a plane and the seats sold, and sometimes it is people willing to pay more for a better seat, and that's why economy seating
could be. I mean, credit card balances are going to record highs on an absolute basis, so people might just be saying, hey, I'll spend a little bit more. I mean, Ritz is to your point, though, Marriott has Ritz, the Autograph Collection hotels. It is much nicer than people think of, I can't remember off the top of my head.
There's a Marriott in Venice, Italy, that's on a little island by itself. That's one of the nicest hotels in the world.
Much nicer than the Residence.
Not that I've ever stayed there. I've just heard that.
There are some lower end or middle
like
end.
Hilton has tiers.
Yes.
Yeah.
They actually really move. Because I'm going to sound like you, suck them dry.
Yeah, this is the most interesting thing for me, though. I didn't think there was anyone that disliked Mark Zuckerberg more than me, but I met him.
Oh, yeah. I'm up
so
there.
I've never been a fan of him, but here's the interesting thing. Him and his wife have pledged all their wealth to give it to charity, right? 90%. Think about what they're saying now. We're going to leave California because we don't want to give the money to the state government. I think
that's how bad the government is.
That's how bad it is. So this is, by my count, the 7th billionaire that has left California, accounting for upwards of $800 to $900 billion worth of wealth. Total billionaires in California is about 180 to 190 with 1.3 trillion. So there is a mass exodus. We told you this was going to happen. All of us said this when this first came about. One leaves and the second, and then it's a death spiral.
They all
want to
be socially left of center until the left comes after their bank account. And then all of a sudden we're talking about, and that pendulum has swung so far. They want so much of your bank account that even these guys are bucking it.
So this is interesting to me because my experience has been mostly with SEC attorneys and patent attorneys. They do a lot of repetitive tasks. So I think it's going to create a system like writing S1 and prospectus, IPO filings, and all these things routine are going to be easily done and replicated.
Right, so let them do that.
Right, and I agree with you. Caution heeded. You need an expert with the nuance and the experience, but then it creates a whole business model problem because billable hours.
Charles, love you.
Thank you. All righty.